Good afternoon and welcome back. I'm Jane Tandy, COO of Canaccord Genuity, and I'm delighted to be chairing this afternoon's session on day one of our Diggers and Dealers Conference. And we've got a very packed session this afternoon, so we'll kick straight off. First up, I'd like to welcome Alex Passmore from Rox Resources to the stage. Alex joined Rox in 2019 as CEO and transitioned to MD in the same year. Originally a geologist, Alex has held a number of executive roles, both as my former colleague on the research side in broking, and then more recently in the executive and non-executive director space. In mid-2019, he led the acquisition of the Youanmi gold project for Rox and has been instrumental in driving the company's growth and funding support. Over to you, Alex.
Great, thank you, Jane. Good afternoon, Diggers delegates. It's a pleasure to present on Rox for the first time since it acquired the Youanmi gold project in 2019. So just as a snapshot of Rox, Rox owns a quality high-grade resource at its flagship gold project, Youanmi, where there's 1.7 million ounces at just under 3 grams in resource. There's strong potential for resource growth at Youanmi, with Youanmi being almost untouched by modern exploration since the late 1990s. So Rox is going about actively exploring the package that we've got there, a large prospective greenstone package in the centre of WA. We're also busily studying the various aspects of bringing the project back into production. So mining, dewatering, geotechnical and metallurgical issues are all been looked at in detail. Rox trades on around $45 per ounce based on that 1.7 million ounce resource base, which we think is a fairly compelling valuation. This was recently recognised by Hawke's Point, our major shareholder, who have 13% of Rox's equity, coming in to support our endeavours at Youanmi. So Rox's near-term strategy is to be an active explorer, progress the studies at Youanmi and look at near-term cash flow opportunities. Our exploration efforts are really threefold, so centred on near-mine resource growth, ounces that we can bring into a mine plan. Regionally at Youanmi, where there's great potential and once again hasn't been touched since the late 1990s. And then at our second project, Mount Fisher Gold up near Wiluna. In terms of the studies that we're undertaking at the moment, and we'll conclude over the next 18 months or so, we're looking into a restart of Youanmi, but also smaller capital type opportunities and early cash flow opportunities. These scenarios are all assisted by the fact that Youanmi is an old gold mine, and so we have an existing decline that extends to about 600 metres below surface, and there are pits and so forth that gives us a good head start. So just the vital corporate information on Rox. Rox trades under the ticker RXL. We have a market cap of $70 million, 15 million in cash and short-term receivables, so well funded to meet our short-term plans. And as I mentioned, we've got Hawke's Point in as a major shareholder. The board of Rox is made up by Stephen Dennis, myself and John Mayer, and we've built out the management team, and we now have a very experienced management team that is reflective of Rox's asset base and what we're doing at Youanmi. So Chris Hunt, CFO, Matt Antill, General Manager of Operations, and Gregor Bennett, our Exploration Manager. So just looking at where Rox sits relative to the sector, with our 1.7 million ounces announced in June, we trade on around $45 an ounce and at around a 3 gram average resource grade. That looks to be fairly compelling compared to when we look across the sector. So a little bit about the Youanmi Gold Project now in a bit more detail. So Rox holds a 70% interest in the Youanmi gold mine via the OYG joint venture, which we're in joint venture with a company called Venus Metals, which is listed on the ASX. Rox is the manager of the joint venture, and he's also manager of the regional joint ventures. So Youanmi sits in the middle of the Yilgarn Craton in Western Australia in a greenstone belt, the Youanmi Greenstone Belt. Gold was first discovered here in around 1895. And what I've put up on this slide is an aeromagnetic image on the right-hand side. And this image pulls out the high iron rocks that represent the Youanmi Greenstone Belt. So you can notice there a large structure running north-south, and that's the Youanmi shear zone. So that's a large crustal scale shear zone, extends to around 32 kilometres depth in the Earth's crust, and that's a good plumbing system to enable gold mineralisation to be in place in those greenstone rocks. The northwest trending structures that you can see coming off that large north-south structure are conjugate to that, and they are where we find most of the gold at Youanmi. So Youanmi is a historical producer with 670,000 ounces produced from a series of open pits and underground at 5.5 grams. It closed in 1997 when the gold price was Australian $4.50 an ounce. So its prospects are significantly enhanced by the current Aussie dollar gold price, obviously. The last parcel of ore that was mined underground at Youanmi in November 1997 was mined and milled at a grade of 14.6 grams per tonne. So that would be a seriously profitable enterprise based on today's gold price. There is an existing decline in place to 600 metres below ground surface. So the mineral resource that we've owned Youanmi since 2019. We were busily drilling the project throughout 2019 and 2020. We then compiled all of that drilling into a mineral resource and which we published in June 2021. And we'd added 39% to our resource, so from 1.2 million ounces to 1.7 million ounces. And importantly, that resource increase doesn't include a couple of new discoveries that Rox has made more recently, called the Junction and the Link Zone. And these two areas of mineralisation are near mine, and they represent those intersecting structures that I showed you earlier. The resource upgrade reflected a discovery cost of $16 per ounce. So the exploration team are delivering. That's well below industry averages. And we had a discovery, the Grace discovery, which outcrops at surface, free milling, shallow open pittable material. And so that's included in this resource, 109,000 ounces of 7 gram material starting at surface. So we're quite excited to get into that. So just a few further observations on our resource. The resources start from surface and in many cases don't require any expensive or capital intensive cutbacks. So at zones called Grace, Plant Zone and Hill End, as noted on that figure. So I'll just point out this figure is shaded by gold grade, ranging from 0.5 of a gram up to greater than 15 grams, which is the magenta material. So you can see the underground has a cut-off grade of 4 grams per tonne, and the open pit material, 0.5 gram per tonne. So, the open pit material, in many cases untouched, starts at surface. The underground material of 870,000 ounces at 8 grams overall has plenty of opportunity for mining to occur from here. What we're doing now is refining our exploration strategy to add ounces in key areas where they're going to be useful in terms of a mining inventory. So in and around the old mining stopes and in hanging wall loads to those stopes. So very, very important to get low capital cost ounces into the books. Being an old mine, Youanmi has significant infrastructure in place, so access roads, airstrip, core shed, workshop, bore field, and so forth. So that all helps our restart plans for Youanmi and lowers the overall capital cost. But there are some more technical issues that having been a previous mine helps us with. So things like wall stability, geotechnical conditions underground, dewatering, metallurgy, environmental issues. All of those things are well understood due to the history of the operation. So our progress at Youanmi can really be summarised as we've drilled 48,000 metres over the last 18 months. We've delivered a 39% increase in our resource to 1.7 million ounces. We've been discovering those ounces at an attractive cost per ounce. We've been recognised by one of the more astute international resource investors, Hawke's Point, who subscribed for $11 million a few months back. We've built up an experienced management team who are capable of delivering the operation, and we're busily studying the operation for a restart. So from here, however, we're not just busily studying the operation and working out how we're going to fund it, we're very focused on resource growth. So we have multiple rigs working at Youanmi at the moment. We have, as recently we've had up to 3 diamond rigs, 1 RC rig and an air core rig working at Youanmi, so it's very busy out there. And these exploration efforts are yielding results. So you can see, I'm not sure if some of you up the back can see those numbers, but you know, we're getting hits like 7 metres at 12 grams true width, right near existing underground infrastructure that's not in the resource. So very impressive results. Then looking more regionally away to the south of Youanmi, there's the Greenstone Belt continues to the south for around 30 kilometres, and 25 kilometres to the south of us is the Penny Gold Project, which is owned by Ramelius. And in between Youanmi and the Penny Gold Project, there's substantial anomalism. So this area was drilled sparsely in the 1990s and was mainly drilled with shallow RAB, which was pretty ineffective. So Rox announced 2 days ago that we've commenced a 540-hole, 22,000 metre air core drilling program, and we're targeting areas of that Greenstone Belt that are new areas. They're not tested adequately by historic drilling. These are areas that are demagnetised zones or zones that show chemical anomalism or both. So applying modern techniques to an old gold field. So in terms of the next steps, you know, we're undertaking MET test work, process plant design, pit optimisations, underground mine design, doing dewatering studies and doing all of the things to bring the operation into fruition. But we're not slowing down on the exploration front either. And we'd expect resource updates later on this year to demonstrate how successful our exploration efforts have been. Corporately as well, Rox has not been sitting still. So Rox has a high-grade, fairly substantial, very substantial nickel project in the Fisher East nickel project, which is to the east of Wiluna in Western Australia. There's 78,000 tonnes of nickel metal contained in a nickel sulphide resource there. And with all that we're doing at Youanmi, we can't do everything, so we determined that we would demerge those nickel assets into a new company called Cannon Resources. So Cannon is to progress the nickel assets of Rox from here. We have in specie those shares in Cannon out to Rox shareholders, and we've raised in parallel $6 million. That issue was very well oversubscribed, and so we're on track to list on around the 10th of August. So we've been very happy having a new corporate vehicle and funding mechanism for our nickel assets, and we think our shareholders will do very well out of that. So just summing up, Rox has a quality, high-grade resource at its flagship gold project, Youanmi, 1.7 million ounces at just under 3 grams. That's an open pit and an underground resource, with the underground being around 8 grams. There's strong potential for further resource growth. We're working on a restart of Youanmi, and we trade on around $45 per ounce of resource. So thank you, and if you would like further information, come and see us at booth 88 in the main marquee.
Thank you, Alex. We're actually at time. We're at time, so I won't have any time for questions for you today, Alex,
Sure.
But hit up Alex at the booth and I'm sure he'll be happy to answer everything.